Welcome back, friends of AI for Autism. Thank you all for joining us for yet another fab interview where we hear from members of our community and listen to their stories. We have a wonderful guest with us today. Elizabeth is a therapist living and working in London, and Elizabeth works with special needs children and is currently studying neurology in King's College London. Today, we'll be hearing Elizabeth's story and we'll get a chance to learn from her experiences. So please welcome Elizabeth Gomez.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you very much. Elizabeth, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know it's a very vague question, but yeah, just a bit of an introduction.
Yeah, so I'm born and brought up in London, always been here. I'm mixed race, so I'm 4 different ethnicities. Yeah, I've always been interested in neurology because my granddad had schizophrenia from a young age. So being young, I never understood it. And then growing up and actually introducing myself to what schizophrenia is, and also having a young cousin with autism, and we were quite young, and when you're young, you're just like, oh, he's naughty, or, you know, he's just being silly. But when we got older, I started realizing, oh, there's more to it. And then my mum had a sit down with all of us because she works in a residential home for children with autism, well, all different disabilities, actually. And so, yeah, it kind of drove me to learn more and do more for the kids in my community. So, yeah, and that's how it all started, really. At the age of 17, just driven to do something for my community, and here we are now.
Yeah, I think you've kind of inadvertently answered the second question that I have, which was how did you develop an interest in working as a therapist? I think you've touched on your grandfather being having schizophrenia, your cousin being autistic, your mum working in that environment. Were there any other factors as well that led you towards becoming a therapist?
I think once I started doing my own research into autism and schizophrenia, and coming to the realization that all of it connected to neurology and how our brain develops and works, and, you know, if there's any deficiencies within the brain, it kind of opened up a whole range of understanding and information that drove me to know more, get to know more, and just, yeah, it was just so fascinating that I became a little bit of a bookworm towards neurology.
Yeah. That's wonderful, and that's one of the things that I can imagine, especially when you're working as a therapist, you end up learning a lot more, not just from what you've been reading, but what you've experiencing face to face with the children you work with. I know it's quite a wide question what I'm about to ask, but would you like to share some of the distinct personality traits of the children you work with, what their interests are? And I know you work with not only autistic children, but with children with a range of other things too.
Yeah, so I think one of the main things that a lot of us see with, I'll start with autism, with autistic children is, I have a lot of children that I see on a day-to-day basis that love London transport. And it's so fascinating because a lot of these kids, they don't really know how to read, write, or things like that, but they can tell you every single stop of the district line, and it makes my mind blow up because I will get on a train and I'll be like, oh my gosh, where do I need to get off, on the edge of my seat? And then I've got a child who's about 6 years old and can tell me every single stop of the district line and tell me when the trains changed, the history behind the stations, and a lot of them watch videos about the trains, you know, at the train stations and things. And it's a huge trait that I've not seen in like just 1 or 2 children, but a very big handful of children. And it's just amazing to see, because they love it so much and they have such a drive towards it, their brain functioning changes so that they can remember all of what they love and they enjoy. And, you know, I was always told at school, like, whatever you love and enjoy, you'll be driven towards it. And it's so true, because they're so driven towards it that they remember all about Transport for London.
Amazing.
And one of my friends is a train driver, and I got him to come in one day, and the excitement, I could have brought David Beckham or somebody, and they wouldn't have even reacted the same way they did for a train driver. But it was so amazing to see. But also another trait that's very common is just their communication skills. Just, you know, they're kind of, you have to drive them or encourage them to actually be able to communicate with their peers or with the adults. And a lot of them, I find, they find it easier to communicate with adults rather than peers, because they have that sense of security with the adults, rather than peers can be kind of unpredictable, some of them, because some kids, you know, you can just, some of the kids here that I work with, you can have a little bit of a relationship, but if they get upset, that doesn't mean that relationship's going to stop them from maybe giving you a little bit of a retaliation because they're frustrated about something. And that unpredictability does pick up with the other kids, whereas they know that adults will not just turn around and just, you know, maybe give them a kick or a hit here or there. So yeah, I mean, those are two very main distinctive characteristics that I pick up from the autistic children I work with. And then, because yesterday it was so common, we have about 4 children here that love their reflection. So they will sit down and just look at their reflection and, you know, do different things in the mirror, but just watch themselves do it. And it's so fascinating, because it's like, I want to know what kind of feedback they get from actually watching themselves do it. And there's a child that I work with, and he doesn't really read or write, but he has memorized Aladdin, The Wizard of Oz, and like 2 other movies by heart. And what is it? He can tell you line by line, scene by scene, and he will reenact the whole thing. And he will, you know, call you to jump in at different scenes and things. And he will watch himself reenacting these scenes right in the mirror. And I just sit back sometimes and just watch him. And it's so fascinating. But at the same time, I can't help but join in, especially in the Aladdin scenes, because I do love a good Aladdin scene.
That's absolutely amazing, everything you've just said right now. I mean, everything down to the scene in reenactment. Only last week, or a few days ago, we had an interview with a mother of 2 autistic children. And she said the same thing about how her son would remember entire scenes from movies and TV shows, draw them, and also remember the scripts for them too. And one of the first mothers we interviewed many months ago, her son memorized the entire tube map by heart. Absolutely amazing, everything you shared, and seeing the overlap there is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. And you mentioned about how you brought in your friend who's a train driver. I'm guessing you engage in a lot of activities to really encourage and support the children you work with. What are some of the activities you engage in when working with them?
So we do try and, so I've been here for a while, I've seen a lot of the children grow and develop. Unfortunately, this year I have to say bye to 4 children because they're turning 18 and going on to adult services. So I do know what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy. And at the same time, I try and see, like, with the connections I have or connections that I make along the way, how I can incorporate that to actually develop the children. So like I said, I brought my friend that's a train driver. We have a Tesco's around the corner. Some children love the shop. So I went down to the Tesco's and I asked them, you know, they know us. And so I said, would it be possible, you know, if the kids could come in and, you know, do like a little bit of a work experience thing here? And they agreed with it. And they just said, yeah, as long as they have their one-to-ones. So we took some of the older kids that love to shop, love a Tesco's, and they did work experience. They bagged people's groceries, had a chit chat with the locals, and just to see them open up so much, it was amazing. We do a lot of hands-on things. I have a child here that loves to bake, so whenever he's here, I always get a new recipe, all the ingredients. We do a lot of sensory play, water play in the summer. We have kids that really drive in water. There's such fishes in the water. So once summer comes, we have the paddling pools, we have sprinklers, we get water beads, we get all different things that we can throw into water, and they can feel, smell, touch, everything that can get their senses just going and driven. And we have a drama therapist that works here. We have an art therapist that works here. We have 2 yoga instructors that work here. So they do yoga with the children, and depending on their needs, they have a program of what kind of movements suits certain children. And every term, so we're asked, like, who wants to take the initiative to lead an activity. And so you do your plans for the term. And it can be like, so this time on a Friday, I'm doing movie night, because a lot of the kids on a Friday love to chill, they love a good movie, they love the popcorn, a little bit of a treat. So yeah, I find like new movies or even old movies with, depending on the children. So some children love a good sing-song, so I find sing-songs movies. Some kids love a bit of action, so it's probably a Marvel movie or superhero movie. So I kind of just look at all the kids that we have and what kids are in, and kind of just shape the activity, the day, what we're going to do around them. And we just try and get everyone to use their connections, their skills, their abilities to come together and just do activities that they feel comfortable doing. And so far we've seen a lot of progress in children, a lot of development in the children doing things that they love, but also doing things that they didn't even know they loved, and they found that they loved it by us introducing them to it.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I think you guys are doing an absolutely remarkable job. They're working with these children. I can imagine it might be really fun, but also you encounter a lot of challenges working with them too. And what are some of the challenges you face when working with them, and how do you and your team overcome them?
So we do have a lot of challenges. At the same time, we have kids that, you know, kind of fight not to do activities. We do have some children that are not able to speak, and you know, a lot of the kids, just like us, there's a lot of pains, a lot of aches that they can't really tell us, and also they can't really show us. And you know, a lot of the kids, so today's Thursday, a lot of the kids will go to school and then come to us for 3 o'clock. So at school, they try to tell people at school what they want to tell them. No one's got it. They come here and they try and tell us, or they just want to relax sometimes. And obviously our kind of job role is to encourage them and get them going into activities and things that we set up. And sometimes the kids just want to sit down and chill. So we do get lots of kids that hit out, kick out, you know, verbally abuse and things like that. And the best way I find that it works is just allowing them to have that space and that time and that opportunity to be able to just relax and find themselves and recenter themselves to the day. And I find that once you give them that time, I find with me anyway, they always come back and they're like, they do want to go and do what I've asked them in the first place, because I've given them the opportunity for what they wanted. Now they're giving me the opportunity for what I asked them for. And it works a lot of the time. And sometimes, you know, the recentering or the time that they need is a lot longer than what we expected, because some of the kids don't even know how to tell us, you know, they haven't slept in 3 days, or, you know, they're really fatigued and things. So giving them that time also allows me to, you know, understand, oh wow, like up until now I didn't understand how tired you were, or how fatigued you were, or how much you needed this time. And so it really does work. And then there's some children that so yesterday I work with a lot of challenging children, because I'm challenging behavioral trained. So yeah, so a lot of the kids I work with are challenging. So the child I worked with yesterday, he likes to do things for reactions. So he'll run off and do something for a reaction. And there are some staff members, or anyone in general, that will see that and go, do not do that. And he loves it. He will laugh and he will do it again for you to go up to him and say, did I not tell you? Do not do that again. And he just loves it. Whereas I've learned with him, I'm like, oh no, have we gone and done that again? And he's like, oh, well, that's not fun, is it? She just didn't care, hasn't even moved, sitting in the same chair or standing in the same position, hasn't changed the tone of her voice, hasn't changed like from a smile to a frown, just kept the same old Elizabeth. And it works, because he gets so bored, because he's like, Elizabeth's not giving me the reaction that I wanted, and I'm just bored of it now. And he will just pull me to do something like a puzzle, or he loves trains, so we build a train track and he will just go with the trains, and by the time he knows it, he's done the whole day without doing something, and his dad's here, so I'm like, bye.
That's absolutely amazing. Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Elizabeth. And I can imagine after many, many years, after quite so much knowledge in what you're studying at university too, where do you see yourself after graduation, and what do you see yourself involved in and working in?
So currently, as you said, I'm at King's College London doing neurology. And so I kind of incorporate that here right now to get more of an understanding of how the children are actually seen by the healthcare system, you know, how they prioritize them or unprioritize them, or how they give them their appointments, or how their appointment follow-ups are. If they're put on medication, how is their medication regulated, you know, and things like that. Because a lot of the kids we have here are on medication and, you know, do have a lot of checkups and things. And once I finish my degree at university, well, my master's, I would like to be in more of a hospital-based setting, doing the same sort of role, because there are, you know, hospital schools and things like that, where they are more involved with the child's healthcare plans, and more involved in their, you know, medication plans, more involved in their appointments, you know, seeing, you know, this is their brain scan from last week. We can see that there's an irregular, you know, kind of irregular pattern going on here. What can we do to see why that irregular pattern is there, and how we can, you know, work towards seeing, can it be improved, or things like that. So I would like to be in more of that type of setting, and being more hands-on with their actual medical neurology plans.
I see. That's absolutely wonderful. And well, and this kind of, I suppose, organically segues into the next question that I have about the work that you've been doing and how you've been raising awareness. Would you like to tell us a little bit more? Because I know you're speaking to us now, and some of the work that you do and the interactions you have with parents and others. What have you been doing to raise awareness when it comes to, let's say, autism or anything else?
So a lot of the time it's going out into our local community, and you know, obviously we do have a lot of kids that we go out with, and we have some people that come up to us and ask, or we have some people that stare, and you know, we do kind of just tell them, you know, this is a group of children from this setting, and they all have special needs. And, you know, if they have questions, we will answer them. We are happy to, you know, give out information. We do have leaflets and things like that. A lot of the kids we have high-vis jackets for, or, you know, some children, their parents provide them with badges, you know, with "I have autism, please be patient with me," and things like that. We also try not to segregate our children. You know, we take them to Tesco's, we take them to the cinema, we take them to bowling and things like that. And we try and integrate them and make it inclusive for them in all environments that they go into. And a big part of what I do is inclusion services as well. So I work with, so one aspect is the challenging kids, and the other aspect I have is the inclusion children who are very much on the lower scale of the autistic spectrum or the disability spectrum. And it's me going in there and integrating them into a school setting, a mainstream school setting. And, you know, a lot of the children at mainstream schools are very inquisitive, and they want to know, you know, like, how come you're here with so-and-so? And I tell them, you know, because your friend has additional need, and, you know, he or she needs a little bit more help making friends or understanding their environment, and that's what I'm here for. And once they are used to that, I'm gone. And by the time I'm done, the kids are more in love with me than they are with my child, the child that I've...
Oh, no. Oh, bless. That's so funny. Oh, dear. That's some fantastic work there, Elizabeth. One thing I wanted to ask earlier was regarding sensory sensitivity issues. Now, there are children and also adults, autistic children and adults who have sensory sensitivity issues. Do any of the children you work with have any? And if so, how is it dealt with?
So we have one child that I work with a lot has a hypersensitivity to sound. Mm-hmm. So this room in here, it echoes, but all the other rooms, they actually have a panel on the roof which does which stops all echoing, but we just got this room redone. Mm-hmm. And so with him, it's even like children's sounds, you know, traffic noise and things like that. So what we do is he has his ear defenders, and we also provide him with a distraction toy. So I find a lot of children with hypersensitivity is we provide them with distraction toys or a distraction game, really. It's all about distraction, because I do find that, especially with him, with sounds, he will get a little bit upset, but once I've given him like the little wiggly that he can just play with in his hands, he completely forgets about it and realizes how happy he is with the wiggly. Yeah. And then by the time the sound's gone for a whole 5 minutes, he's back to doing what he needs to be doing. Yeah. And also the ear defenders, they do help him throughout the day anyway. And we also have kids that are hypersensitivity to touch. So we do different tables around the setting on the day with different activities. So one might be a sensory farmyard, barn, so Rice Krispies for the mud, you know, spaghetti dyed in green for the muddy puddle, with the green stuff, the algae in it, you know, chocolate pudding for the animal poo and things like that. And they can just touch it, and there's just so many different feelings. There's the crispiness, the stickiness from the spaghetti, the gooiness from the chocolate pudding. And if they eat it, they eat it, and they're not going to get a funny stomach either. So, you know, it does work. It provides them with distraction, with something to interact with that, you know, it feeds into their sensory needs. I have one child that needs to be bounced a lot, and, you know, we have a trampoline So we just throw her onto the trampoline, we jump onto the trampoline with her and, you know, get her bouncing higher, getting the impact from the trampoline, and, you know, and she just loves the impact, the sensory vibrations that she gets from it. We have one child that loves vibrations, and we have a minibus, and he's in a wheelchair. The vibrations that comes up from under the minibus into his wheelchair, he loves it. He's just on the bus, just dancing and singing and screaming the whole journey. And if it stops, he will start shaking his chair himself.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. And I can see in the tone of your voice and the smile on your face, the joy that you have working with them and also supporting them with their needs. As you know, as a team, us at AI for Autism, we're currently raising awareness to build a tool to help autistic people with sensory sensitivity issues to help identify triggers, something along the lines of a Fitbit for autistics. Would a tool like this, would you say, would a tool like this help the children you work with and others?
It would, yes, because even though I've been here for such a long time, there are some people that don't really understand them. So, you know, I will have a child that kicks off and, you know, one of the staff members will just come up to me and say, I don't know what happened to him or her, but she's just kicked off or she's just done this, and there was no trigger. And I always tell them there's never no trigger. Yeah. There is always a trigger. It can be the smallest thing, the biggest thing, the most unnoticeable thing, the most noticeable thing. It can be from the temperature of the wind to the smell in the air that can provoke, you know, a meltdown. And, you know, it all comes down to understanding the situation, the environment, the actual setting that it happened in. And, you know, there's different things where you look back to it and think, oh, okay, so maybe it was this, and try and avoid that next time. And you do avoid it, and you're like, oh my gosh, no meltdown. And the last 3 times she did meltdown because they were in the setting, you know, there was that perfume, which we've had a child, you know, a woman bought a £90 perfume. She loved it, but the child could not stand the smell of the perfume. And in the end, it came to the point where we were like, don't wear that perfume tomorrow. Let's see what happens. Didn't wear it, best friends with that worker again. Wore it the next day, rivals. So we found out it was the perfume. So in the end, we had to say to her, you can wear the perfume, but not here at work, because it's clearly an issue. You know, I have one child that loves to smell my hair and, you know, just will hold my hair and, you know, just keep it next to their face because they just love the smell of it. And so there's the whole different smells, you know, one child not liking it and one child loving it. You know, the whole feel of hair next to a child, you know, that some kids love it and some kids don't like it. It's the smallest things to the biggest things, and it's understanding them. And I think the more people that understand the different sensitivities of different children, it can avoid a lot of meltdowns, and it can also develop a lot of progress at the same time.
That's absolutely amazing. What you said about smells too, one of the parents we interviewed a few days ago, she was describing her son in the exact same way. When he interacts with someone new, he likes to smell them. And yeah, thank you very much for sharing what you did. I think that's very encouraging for us in the work we do too. We're almost approaching the end of the interview, Elizabeth, and I want to thank you for being with us today. I think this kind of segues nicely from what you said about understanding. Is there a message you would like to send out to our audience? It could be about autism or about special needs children in general, anything at all.
Well, I just want to say, do you know what? I applaud all the work that you do, and, you know, the awareness that you've brought up. I've been following the journey, and it's just amazing, all the things that you've done. You know, there's not a lot of people that kind of bring a lot of awareness towards autism and disabilities. You know, even though autism's been around for such a long time, you know, there's still a lot of blank spaces for, you know, children, adults, anyone with autism. And also the parents, like, I applaud them, I take my hats off to them, because it's not easy, you know, it's a lot of work. And a lot of these parents, it's a 24/7 job, and a lot of people don't understand it, and, you know, they just see it as, you know, they're not being a good parent, you know, because I do work with children privately as well, and sometimes, you know, my child will have a meltdown in Sainsbury's, and there's people, you know, talk the same things under their breath or things like that, and it does get very frustrating, because I'm like, you don't know the child, you don't know me, but the child has autism, and, you know, there has something that has set him off, and he is upset about it, and this is how he takes it out. So there are a lot of blank spaces in our community, in, you know, the whole world, really, because I do go to America a lot, and there is a huge gap between the service we provide in England and the service they provide in America.
Wow.
Because, you know, we are very, very fortunate to have the system we do have here. And, you know, it's a very amazing service. They try and do as much as they can in this service in England. But in America, there is no services. And if you want to go into a service, you have to have a lot of money, unfortunately. So it's a lot of parents out there struggling. And not saying that parents in England don't struggle, but, you know, I am so grateful that I am able to provide a service for the kids that come to where I work, and to be able to at least, you know, help the parents out for what I do with their children, and, you know, helping that progress, and all the work that everyone else does. It's amazing, because without us, yeah, the kids would not progress as quick as they could.
Yeah. Lots of points for us to reflect on, Elizabeth. Thank you so much once again for joining us today. Just one final question. How can our audience find out more about you, the work you do? Are you on social media? Any link you'd like to share?
So if you do want to find out more, I am on social media, but I don't have any social media that actually relates me towards my work with autism quite yet.
Okay.
But I have a personal one, which is Elizabeth Gomez X, and you can send me a message. You can drop me questions, any you know, anything that you need help with, and I am more than happy to help. You know, if you need some sort of activities, or you think that there's something going on, you know, I'm more than happy to investigate and see. But once I qualify as a neurologist, I'll start up another page, or soon enough.
Yeah.
You can pick me up on that one.
Yeah. Just to confirm, you said Elizabeth Gomez X, is that correct?
Yeah.
And that's on, what, is it on Instagram, Facebook, where is that?
Instagram, yes.
Elizabeth, fantastic. What we'll do is I'll post the link to the handle in the description at the bottom of the video. Elizabeth, thank you so much once again, and thank you everyone at home who's been listening. Elizabeth, continue the fantastic work, and thank you so much. Everyone at home, if you resonated with what you heard Elizabeth say today and you want to share your story, so get in touch with us. We want to put your voice out there in the world. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes. Thank you, everyone at home. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
And it's been a pleasure having you on this chat. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.